Good day, everyone. I know we're early, but we're not really on a time schedule, and I'm ready to go, so I figured we'd just get started. So hopefully you're all doing well. Good to see everybody jumping into the chat here. Talia, Dark, Pat, Kevin. It's good to see you. Let's see. So this is the Twin Otter. Had one little flight. I did a takeoff, landing, flew around a little bit, and tested it out. It's not bad. There's some stuff to remember. I like Dark's comment about the DC-6. There are some similarities in that you're a little bit more hands-on, although it does have a working autopilot. So that is not too bad. So we're going to take a look. I'm going to run through the aircraft, kind of start to finish, go through, explain some stuff, and we can do some flying. I figure looking at the maps, we'll take off out of here, and we'll head north up along the island chain up to Thulistu. Let's kind of circle around there, and then we'll come back and land. And if anyone has any questions about the Otter, let me know, and I'll see if I can answer them as best we can. Okay, so we're here at the airport in Malé, in the Maldives, and we're going to be taking off. We'll take off to the south. So we're here at the northern end of the airport. Winds, I'm on the preset, few clouds, so winds are directly out of the west. So it's a direct light crosswind of a couple knots. So we will just head straight out to the south and then circle around. So let's hop on board and we'll take a look at the airplane. Alright, so I'm going to go to an outside view first, and we'll go around and take a look at it. So this is the Twin Otter. It's a workhorse in Canada, very much so. Dark, I thought you had the Otter. I'm wondering why I'm seeing you as the Cherokee. Interesting. Not seeing anyone else. I think I'm at the other end, the end of the pumps anyway. As you can see, it's a high wing, fixed gear, 2 turboprop engines, and here's your cockpit entry doors. It's got a good set of flaps and ailerons, strong landing gear, long tail to counteract all the weight up front. Entry door, it also doubles as a cargo door, so when you have the cargo configurations, that's where your cargo goes. Standard tail. It's got 3 sets of trims, aileron, elevator, and horizontal stabilizer, so she's very trimmable. Little access door on the south. Otter BA livery. Interesting. I'm not sure why you're not just showing up as an Otter. That's weird. Yeah, and there's the engines. They're Pratt & Whitney PT turboprops. There's the other door there. Beautiful looking aircraft. We are in the the DHC-6 300. This is the long pointy nose version. The 100 has the stubby nose. That was the original model built. 300s are the main ones you find around. 3-bladed prop, and we are in the wheeled configuration. It also comes in floats. It comes in amphibious floats, which means they have wheels that you can lower and land on runways with the floats on. And then there's also a ski version that you can access as well, and do things like fly down in the Antarctic and up north and all that kind of stuff. There are a couple seaplane bases around, but for most of them you will end up starting in the water, engines running and everything. It's not like you're at a dock or a harbor. Alright, so back inside we can look at the cockpit. Okay, so here we are. It is fairly crowded. We got circuit breaker panels beside us. It's the back of the seat with some weird bell system behind us. Door does work. You can open and close the door. Typical de Havilland steering setup. It's got a central yoke here, and it has a boom. If you look at the Beaver, the DHC-2 Beaver, it's a single boom that you can actually swap sides with. But it keeps this area clear for your legs. There's rudder pedals, flight control instruments, engine instruments, radios. Over here you've got the co-pilot's door. There's the cabin back there where all the people sit. Up here you've got some more fuses, inverters, you got panel lights and stuff like that. These are a lot of your light switches, things like your anti-ice and everything up here. We've got your flaps, friction knobs for your props, your throttles. Fuel control levers are on the other side here, and they're behind the prop levers. Up here you've got your masters, your landing lights. Stuff is kind of scattered around a little bit. And that's pretty much it. You've got your trims, you've got your left and right trim here, you've got your up and down trim, and then you've got like a rudder trim as well. It does have modern gauges, it does have GPS, ADF, and there's your transponder. You can do ILS approaches and stuff in it as well. It does have that capability. So let's go through. We're going to get her fired up, and I'll slowly go through that process as well. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to remove the gust lock. The gust lock, if you don't know, locks the controls in place. So as the wind blows across the control surfaces, it's not raising and lowering the flaps and causing the stick in the cockpit to slam around. It kind of locks it in place. We'll remove that. And that is now put away. One interesting thing to say, you do not steer with the pedals. You steer with the nose wheel steering lever here on the column. So as you'd be taxiing along, if you want to go right, you pull it up. If you want to go left, you push it down. It's a hydraulically actuated nose wheel steering. So it's pretty cool. So let's take a look at the aircraft. Parking brake is down here at the bottom. You can see it's in now. Parking brake is set. Emergency fuel switches are here. This is the fire panel if you have a fire. Emergency fuel left side, right side, both are in normal. Fuel selector is in normal. Fuel boost pumps are here in the middle. They are both in the off position. Radios are off. Cabin lights and signs. So let's go up to the cabin lights. Hi, Brian. That is this one here. So here's our lighting. So we've got our anti-ice and our anti-ice boots. We have our lighting is mainly over here. We have more lighting in here for the interior. Some bus ties, generator switches, temperature controls over here, bleed air, and just on the edge here where we got some fuses and other lights and stuff, we've got the strobe lights and the flight compartment fans. So what we're going to do is we're going to come up here. We'll start getting the aircraft ready. So we're going to put the fasten seatbelt sign. The no smoking sign will come on. The rest of the lights are fine. Anti-collision light we will now put on. Pitot heat is here. It is off. Generator switches are down here. They are in the off position. Flaps, which we looked at earlier, are here overhead. They're in the 0 position, fully up. They go 10, 20, 30, 40. Usual landings are 30-degree flaps. Oh, sorry, Talia, I've got that turned off at the moment. Let me turn it on for you. I haven't updated it for the next stream. But I will wake up the bot for you. There you go. So flaps are fully up. Fuel levers. Now if we come down to this view, there's the fuel levers. You can see the fuel levers for both engines are off. This is our windshield wipers and window heat if we need it. I'm not going to need it today. Propeller levers. are currently in the feather position. I'm just reading. Oops, sorry, just hit the mic. Just reading through the checklist. So we're going to put the propeller levers fully forward. They're in the fine pitch position now. Power levers are going to go 10% forward. So if we look at them, let's see, we're going to move them. We're just going to kind of push them up to that idle position there. Should get that little bit of a noise. That's roughly where you want them in idle. So they are in idle. You're going to have a little bit of movement. We'll leave them back there so they're quiet. If we come up to the ignition switch, it should be in normal, which it is. We can put the guard back down. Master battery and DC master we're going to turn on. So there's the master battery. So instead of external power on it, we're on the master battery, and we're going to open up the DC circuits. And everything's now coming alive inside the airplane. So the radios are on. You can see that. The autopilot, or the radio system up, the nav system is up, the autopilot's coming online. We're going to turn the transponder to standby. This is going to be a VFR flight, so we'll type in our VFR frequency of 1200, leave it on standby, and we're good there. So we're going to go up to an altitude of 2,000 feet. So we'll dial that in. You can do it down there, or you can do it over here on this one in front of you. As a pilot, you can see our altimeter also shows both millibars and inches of mercury. So let's see if bot is up and running. Yep. All right, the bot's awake. So that is all set. So a couple things we're going to watch when we start up. When we start the engines, we're going to want to see the torque rise and the T5 start to rise. Once we get the T5 coming up and everything kind of stabilizes again, we're going to push the full fuel levers fully forward. That should cause the engines to ignite. And eventually we'll get the ignition switch, we'll go back to the center, and we can start the other engine. And then we'll do our checks after that. So if we come outside, see, we got our beacon going. And that is all looking good. So throttles are set, propellers are forward, fuel is back. We can check our fuel gauges. We've got fuel. And everything is looking good. So we're going to come up here. Engine start switch. We're going to start engine number 2, or the right engine first. Let me just get a nice position here. And the drinks are starting in the back. So we'll get a nice position. It's got a really nice animation here for when these things start up. So we'll jump out to see. So here we go. Right engine. You can hear it as well. Beautiful sound. Alright, so there's shit spinning up on the starter. We're now going to add fuel. Audio keys? Yeah, I like that, Dark. Okay. So if we come down, we can take a look at some of our gauges here. So you can see our torque gauge is sitting at about 7% at the moment. Our T5, which is our turbine temperatures, are at about 350 degrees or so. Our propeller prop RPM is at 40. And our percentage RPM is at about 50. So, and there's our fuel gauge down there. We also have our fuel flow, our pressures, and our temperatures for our oil. This is the right engine. This is the left engine. I'm going to get rid of this for a minute. Click that. More circuit breakers and fans and fueling stuff, and that. Not really needing to worry about that too much at the moment. So one thing I did forget to do is put the booster pump on. So we're going on the forward boost. So we're going to do the same thing on this side. Fuel pump will come on. And we're going to start up this engine. And then we'll take a look. There she is, starting to spin. Adding fuel. Alrighty. The props are fully forward, so one thing you did hear were the props moving into that forward position. If we come back on the props, they're going to go into course pitch. Won't make much difference at low speed, but that's where they are there. If we were to bring them further back, they go into feather mode, which is not something we're too concerned about at the moment. So that is all working. So a couple of things we want to keep an eye on. Two things we want to watch for our flight when we're flying. The torque, we never want to bring above 50. So even when we take off, we want to keep our torque below 50. And when we cruise, we're going to set our torque. If economy is 40, normal is 50. I'm going to set it to 45. And then we want our RPM here to be back at about 76. And that's kind of cruise RPM. Now for the torque, as with all turboprop engines, when we're coming into land, we don't want to go right down to 0 on the pressure. They say to keep it around 10. Sometimes you got to go below just because you're too high or something. But there we are. Everything is up and running. So it is a noisy airplane to be in. Pressures are in the green. Temperatures are up in the green. Fuel flow is looking good. So we can do the after start check now. So power levers we're going to bring up to idle. They should come up to about 15% on the torque. There we go. You can hear that beautiful change. Generators we're going to come up and turn on now. So the generators are both on. Engine instruments, we're going to check, make sure everything is looking good. Yeah, everything is looking very good. Radios are on, masters are on. Transponder and everything is good. There's our compass, and our gyros are reading the same, so we're good there. We'll go up to our lights again. So we're going to put our position lights, anti-collision lights are on. We'll put our taxi light on. Our emergency lights are armed. General lighting is fine. Flight compartment, we don't need bleed air, we don't need. We'll put our temperature control into auto, turn it down. We are down in the Maldives after all. Bus tie is normal. Generators, as I said, are on. Strobe lights are on. This so we don't forget about them later. Again, de-ice and everything is up here, so we don't have to worry about it down here where we are. Let's try to get back inside the airplane. There we go. I haven't got any views set up for this model. So the caution lights are all on. Altimeters are checked. We are good there. Anti-collision and position lights are on. So brakes are now released. And you can see she wants to move forward. I find we really got to put the bring the throttles back. So we'll do a brake check. There we go. And you can see we have a caution light, low pneumatic air pressure. That's because we're running, a Spitfire. That's because we're running low RPM at the moment. That'll go out once we're up on the ground and running. So that is all good. Let me taxi out. And again, I know it tells you to keep the RPMs up and everything, the throttle's up, but I find it wants to roll pretty quickly, so we'll ignore that. Again, as I said, it is a noisy airplane inside. And you can see we've got the steering there. Now, she has been tested by a bunch of real turbo pilots, Twin Otter pilots, and the way she wallows and leans side to side, like you can see as I'm moving the switch, that is realistic. She actually does that, which is pretty interesting. So we're looking, when we got flaps 10 in, we're looking at a takeoff speed of about 75 knots. We're going to start putting a little bit of back pressure in. And she should take off. Landing speed is about the same, 80 knots for landing. For the trim, you want the trim here for the rudder elevator trim right there. That's our takeoff trim. It's in a good position. So that is good. I think Dark just took off right beside us. There is a aileron trim here, but I haven't had to play with that yet. So I do have plans for some flights coming up with this. We're going to start tomorrow. It won't be a regular stream. It'll be an earlier stream because I have a meeting in the afternoon I have to go to. So it's going to be in the morning. It'll be about 1400 Zulu. And we're going to do cargo operations. So we'll be flying a cargo version. And the first several flights for cargo operations will be out of Vancouver. We're going to be flying up and around the Rockies. So it should be pretty cool. So if you want to join me for that, I'll put up the notice in the note tabs. And it'll be tomorrow. Like I said, we're going to do some cargo operations. Mountain flying in Canada in the winter. Yeehaw. Alright. So we're lined up. Things make noises in this aircraft. It is pretty cool. So, fuel quantity. Fuel quantity is checked. Fuel pumps are on. Trim tabs are set. Flight instruments are checked. Comm radios are all set. Propeller levers are fully forward. Auto feather. Auto feather. We want to hit that button there. Get the green light up for auto feather. Flaps, we're going to go one notch. Push the flaps into 10%. As you can see here, our flaps are down to 10%. Engine instruments, everything is looking good. Pitot heat will come up. We'll throw on the pitot heat. Anti-ice is not required. Flight controls. We want to make sure everything is free and in the correct sense. And it's all looking good. Transponder will go to out. Landing lights are on. Caution lights are on. Runway is checked. And we are ready to go. So again, we don't want to go above 50% on the torque. I'm going to start bringing the power up. Brakes are released. Keep it around 50%. And again, we're looking at about 75. There's 75. We'll start easing back. You may get a little chirp as you take off, but that's good. Hang on, Nick. Alright, so we're climbing out. So I'm going to bring the power back to 45, and I'm going to bring the props back to 90 for the climb. We want to climb out at about 100, which is roughly where we are right now, so we'll just trim it out for 100. And there we go. So we're 500 feet or more above the ground. We're now passing 1,000. Flaps going up. Flaps up, she's going to drop the nose slightly, so we're going to add a little bit more back trim. And there we go. So begin our turn. In your multiplayer settings, did you change from default aircraft in multiplayer? I'm not sure exactly what you mean, Nick. Bank angle. We got to keep it in 30 degrees. Alright, so the altitude is coming up. We're going to turn on the autopilot. Altitude, hold, and heading. There goes mackerel. I still haven't loaded the CL215 yet. Alright, so we're at our altitude. So if you listen to the sounds of the airplane, so we're at 45 on the torque, and I'm going to bring the props back to 76%. And you heard that click? That means we're at cruise configuration for the props. And if you look up, you can see the props are pretty well back there. So we should get up to about 150 knots or so, and should hold us. And we're now in cruise. So you can see the trim and motion light comes on. It whatever the trim's adjusting, so it's adjusting to keep us at this altitude. We're at about 153 knots right now. I'll bring the power back to about 40. We'll go into economy mode. There we go. And that'll slow us slightly. But we're good. So we're on autopilot. We're at altitude hold 2,100 feet. We're on heading mode. And we're following that. So we're going to head up along the island chain. Turn our heading bug over to about 30. I'm using my controls on the throttle quadrant, so I don't have to worry too much about the joystick. Because unfortunately, the heading bug is right behind the stick here, so you can mouse over it to turn it, but I'm using the controls on my quadrant. Again, I don't have any views set up for this model, but it is. I do like. Look at the carbon from the exhaust on the tail. That looks really cool. It is a noisy airplane. They all are when you're this small and you've got this engine running right beside your ear. Yeah, it is a good airplane, okay, I do like it. So we just keep heading up along the islands here. Dial it in this way as well. So we have a couple different things we can follow. We have an OBS here. We're going to use the ADF. We could check that out, see if there's any beacons or anything back at the airport. There's no beacons, but there is a VOR. So 114.7 is the Mali VOR. We come over here and we go to nav mode, and we go 114.7. Throw that up into there. You can see we're now picking up the beacon. So if we look at, there's no ILS for runway 18, but we leave the ILS for that in and we put on a heading of 002. So it's about there. You can look at that and see how that does. We don't have an ADF frequency available to us at this airport. But again, we can look around. We get the view from the other side. There's the islands at the window. We can even go back into the cabin. We can get through the door here. There we go. And we can sit here and look out the passenger window at the engine. And again, it comes in a ski variety. It comes in the float version as well. There's the other little resort area, resort island. There you go, we're cruising at 145. We'll head back the other way. So we'll go in and we'll land on runway 36, come in the other way, and then we'll switch over and maybe try a float plane, an amphib, see how that does. So So for my next few streams where I'm using the airplane, I'm going to be using the, I think it's a blue colored cargo version. We're doing cargo ops. And like I said, the first number of flights will be flying out of Vancouver. So I've picked an apron which looks like a cargo apron. And we'll be running cargo operations out of there. So again, we can do our checks. We're running 300 pounds of fuel an hour per engine, or per minute, pounds per hour, 300 pounds per hour. Torque is good at 40%. Our T5, which is our turbine temperatures, 555 or so degrees, which is good. Oil pressure and oil temperatures are good. See our RPM percentages, our prop RPM and our engine RPM. It's the engine RPM you want to watch. That's the main one. And you can see the props are back to 76, which is good. That's where we want it. Fuel quantity is good. Boost pumps are still on. And our fuel selector is normal. So unless there's a reason to change it, we won't change it. Going up here again, we can turn off the landing lights. Starters back to normal. These stay where they are. And again, you've got all your switches and your air conditioning and generators, all that stuff. These are your dimmer switches, so your lights are set for bright, and you can turn off that panel lighting or dim it down at night. And if you need it, there's some information. There's your limitations, your best climb angles, minimum control speeds, flap speeds, recommended approach speed. You can see 76 knots, and your operating limits. This aircraft will go up pretty high, so flying over mountains is not an issue. And there's your temperature gauge, kind of right up above your head. So it's currently about 11 or 12 degrees down here, Celsius. So yeah, it's a nice airplane. I like it. I like it a lot. In your multiplayer settings, did you change from default aircraft in multiplayer? Yeah, unless you can explain that in chat, I'm at a loss. This cruise ship. So the thing about this airplane is it will land very short. It does have a reverse on the props, so you can do a pretty good job reversing. If you are going to use the reverse prop, which we will on this landing, make sure that you push the nose forward. If you don't, there's a chance she'll lift up the nose off the ground. So once you get that nose down, push forward and get it planted, so that you don't risk losing it. Alright, so there's the airport. So we're going to head kind of downwind now. And we'll try the ILS localizer for the approach. You can do checks on your batteries and everything as well. There's your generators, make sure they're all working properly, all kinds of neat stuff. Of course, there's your warning panel. Everything is there. Again, you got some basic load generator limitations as well. So platform altitude for the ILS is, let me just pull it up again. 2,000 feet, which we're more or less at, and we want to be at least six and a bit miles out. So we'll go out to a little bit. We do not have a DME in here, so that is something you have to bear in mind. So you'd be able to use a little bit of tracking if you had it programmed in on your GPS over here for distance. There's also a clock and a timer, which you can use if you want. As you can see, we can do day and night, VFR, IFR, and we are equipped for icing. So flying in the north in the winter is not going to be an issue, other than it's going to be a challenge. So with this aircraft, we can keep our speed up. We want to hold it. We don't want to extend flaps until we get her down to 100 knots. And we want flaps 30, and you can see there's a little green indicator across the 80. That's roughly where we want to be on the our approach. And then for landing, 80, 75, 80 in there should be fine. Got the localizer. I'm not sure where we see the glide slope. I'm assuming it's over here on our OBS. Put that in 02. We're 114.7. We are seeing it here. Should pick it up there as well. And I'm going to dial it in here. 11. Might have to go into here for the localizer. Yeah, there it is. So that one is putting it into there. The bottom one is putting it into here, and this should give us our glide slope as well once we get down there. I'm thinking. Nice test. I haven't done the ILS approach for this thing yet. So for a descent checklist, which we don't have to do, but what we would check fuel quantity. You can see our fuel is starting to go down a little bit. That's good. Caution lights, everything is still on and good. We're going to turn on our landing lights. ATX is not required. Altimeters are set. Signs are fine. And we are good. So we're going to turn around for the intercept now. How we do. It's about a 40-degree intercept. We got some movement on the localizer. You can see see that needle and that needle coming in. Still not seeing a glide slope. We're holding altitude. We're still in heading mode. Hello, Willie. How are you? And we're doing good there, so we're going to arm the approach. Glide slope is armed. Nav is captured. My name is Becky Davis. You're a comedian. Alright, so we're capturing the localizer. I know roughly where we should intercept the glide slope, so I'm watching to see if it does that. But the aircraft is looking good. I've got my escort here. And we're inbound. Still not seeing a glide slope on any of the gauges. We'll get our heading aligned with runway heading. There we go. Be starting down. Now that's seeing it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come off autopilot, which is fine. We're going to come back on the power. We're going to bring the propellers fully forward. And we're going to start slowing her down. We want to bring that speed back. It's 110 knots. I'm going to give her 10 degrees flat, help with that slowdown. There's 100 knots, we'll go 20 degree flap. And we're going to target at about 80 knots. Oh, is it? Yeah, I wasn't seeing a glide slope indicator anywhere. Follows the localizer fine. There's 90, we're going to go 30 degree flaps. That'll be our landing flap since it's a fairly long runway. If we were going into somewhere really short, we would hit it at 40 degree flaps. There's our 80 knots, so we're going to trim to hold 80 knots. So bring the power up, 500 feet to go. She will call minimums at around 250 feet, I think. So there's 80 knots. We want to try to hold it at 80 knots. We're a little bit low.
Sync rate.
We're going to add power. And it takes a lot of yoke movement. There's our minimums call out. Okay, thanks, Billy. So we're 80 knots, slightly high, so we're going to ease back slightly. I am going to show you the reverse thrust when we come down. So we're 100 feet. We're a bit low. We're Gonna land before the displace threshold.
40.
So we're doing about 70 knots, nice and slow. You can see how slow you can go.
20.
So down we come.
10.
Okay, we're down. Hitting the nose down and reverse thrust. Add a little bit of brake. And we're off at the first taxiway. There we go. So obviously for a runway like this, you would not need the brakes, the reversers and stuff. I was just showing you how they would work. So what we're going to do is we're going to park it, and I'm going to switch over to an amphib, and we'll go to water landing up at the far end there, at where we did the turnaround. So we're just going to park in here. All right, let's jump inside. Parking brakes are on. So flaps are fully up, anti-ice is off, landing lights are off, transponder is off, trim tabs are all on neutral, anti-collision light is off, and we can do the shutdown. So power, our parking brake is on, power levers come back up to that 10%, and we can do it by the gauges. Reason they do this is to allow the props enough power to going through them to cycle through. So we're going to pull the propellers back to course pitch. Should hear a change in sound a little bit, and then we're going to feather them. You can hear them go into feather mode. Generators can come off, and we will shut down. And they sound really, really cool. Now the sound does keep going for a bit after they shut down. That's something else they gotta fix. Oh no, it worked this time. When I tried it the other day, they seemed to drag on a little bit longer than they should have. Alright, so fuel levers are back. We can turn off the fuel pumps. Up, turn off the lights. Pitot heat's off, air conditioning is off. Emergency lights are disarmed. Strobe lights are off. Can open the door. DC electric and batteries are off. And there we go. So let me load up the that's when they hit a bird? Yeah, they go into feather mode. Alright, let's go back to the menu domain. And we're going to load up with a amphib. And we'll take off from here and we'll head out to... we don't want the float plane. We want the amphib because we want the wheels. And we'll go back to Mali, and we'll come back down to this end, and we'll jump in. It is a fun plane, Willie. Oh, really? Oh, ooh, that's bad news. Oh, I got no problem as long as they fix the issues when they come up. You know, if it takes them a little bit to get it sorted out, hey, I'm fine with that. I have no issues there. All right, so here we are in the Amphib. Similar idea, except it's got amphibious floats, which means that you can land them on a runway, but once you take off, you can put them out. She doesn't have water rudders, which is interesting. I guess the prop blast over the main rudder is good enough. Never landed one of these in water. This is going to be interesting. So let's hop on board, and we'll quickly go through and get her set up and ready to go. So parking brake is set. Fuel switches are set. We're going to remove the gust block. Fuel selector is in normal. Fuel boost pumps are currently off. Radios are off. Cabin lights and signs. We'll go up and we'll throw on the seat belt, the no smoking, and the position lights. Beacon light, which I believe it's the anti-collision light. I call it a beacon light. PO heat's off. Generator switches are off. Flaps are up. Fuel levers are off. Props are in low pitch. Actually, I'm going to start them in the feather position, see what that sounds like. Throttle levers, we can crack. Okay, Willie, take care. Asymmetrical thrust used on water. Oh, okay, well, that makes sense. Ignition switches to normal. And that's fine, that's under the cap there. Batteries on. DC master is now on. Fuel load is checked. All right, boost pumps. Both of them are on. Starting the right engine. I like the way the lights dim when she draws power to the starter motor. Generators, not all the generators aren't on, but you can hear it release the battery from the starter motor when it cut off. Excellent. She's coming up. Ignition and starter is back. We'll start the other engine. See, everything's coming up. Numbers are stable. Fuel is added. RPMs are coming up. There's a starter disengaging. Energies are coming up. Temperatures coming up. Pressures all look good. Everything is looking good. Alright, so we can bring the props up into course out of feather. Generator is coming on. Engine instruments are good. Radios are all on. We'll turn on the altimeter, or the transponder. Funny they don't have a VFR button. Most of them do. 1200. We're on mode C reporting. Compasses are good. Caution lights are on. Altimeters are checked. And all our overhead lights are good. So, emergency exits are armed. That's fine. Fine. They're all good. Taxi light on. Pitot heat's coming on. Generators are on. Strobe lights are on. And cabin temperature control is good. Caution lights, collision lights, and we are good to taxi. get around these guys that want to get a close look at my propellers here. Bye, Oki. You have a great day. We're going to head down to the runway and we'll just take off to the north. Kevin over there, not seeing anyone else around, but we'll see what happens. Alright, before takeoff checklist. So, fuel quantity is checked. Fuel pumps are both on, trim tabs are set, landing instruments are set, radios are set, propeller is full forward. Auto feather is on, flaps are set to 10, estrogen check, torpedo heat is confirmed on. Anti-ice not required. Flight controls are good. Landing lights are on. Caution lights checked. Runway heading is good. Here we go. Again, we're going to keep her down to 50. We're going up to 2,000 feet. Go to 45 on the torque. Again, we're looking for about 75 knots. We'll start easing some back pressure in. There's 70, 75. And we're up. Now, looks like Kevin landed in the water right there. Great. So we come down here, we go gear up. We should see the wheels retract. There we go. And we're now in float mode. So we're trimming out for the climb. But again, we're going to head out towards the Folustu, 1,000 feet to go. Actually, we're going to go down to 1,000. Why go so high? Alright, so power coming back to 40. We'll bring the props down. Hear the click. There she is. Nose her down, and we'll let her come down to 1,000 feet. There's Kevin below us in his float plane. Still climbing, that's fine. That nose down. No point in going too high. over the city or town, resort, whatever it is that's there, and then we'll come in for a landing on the water. To go. It's 200. $100. There we go. Altitude mode on. Takes a while to get herself down again. We'll see if she'll take herself back down to 600. Or down to 1,000. Probably hold it there, which is fine. Let her stabilize herself. Yeah, she's going back up to where I hit the altitude. We'll take the altitude hold off, bring the power back, let her descend. Beautiful islands around here. I'm loving the reflections in the water. I guess this is painted up a bit like a private plane. I'll turn that light off, leave the taxi light off. Come around the island and then we'll land over here somewhere. We're going to let her slowly come down to 500 feet. Commander Dempster, hello. We're in the Maldives. We just did a flight in a wheeled version and now we've got the float plane out. We're going to come down and land beside the island here. Or the amphib, rather than straight floats. Bring her down to 500 feet. And we can start turning to the east. This is the new AeroSoft de Havilland Twin Otter that was just released yesterday. There she is there. This is on the amphib floats. There's a couple other versions that have it on wheels, have it on skis, and have it on straight floats as well. There we go, make silence. We're going to come around here and then we'll land in the water. So we'll get ourselves ready to go. So landing lights will come on. I'll throw on the taxi lights for good measure. Oh, you know the plane? The area? No, this is the default scenery. No add-ons. Alright, so props going fully forward. Power coming back. Speed coming down. There's 100 knots. First notch of flaps. Second notch of flaps. Third notch of flaps. 500 feet to go.
Sink rate.
It's 400 feet. 80 knots.
Sink rate. Sink rate.
200.
Sink rate.
100.
100 feet to go.
Sink rate.
40. 30. 20. 10.
Holding her. And there we are. We are down. Oh, that wasn't that bad. Wouldn't want to do that in really bad weather. Be nice if they had docks and stuff we could land at. Apparently you just steer, you just do asymmetrical thrust. Yeah, it'll work. You don't want to do it too much, but it'll I do gotta get that airplane. I'll get it in a minute. Alright, well, let's consider ourselves down. We'll shut her down. We'll give ourselves a little bit of power for the shutdown. Bring the propellers right back into feather mode. And generators are off. Fuel levers are off. Boost pumps are off. Turn off all the appropriate lights. And that one goes off. And there we go. Floating out on the water with Kevin. We do some fishing out here. Well, it was pretty cool. So I hope everyone enjoyed. It's a new airplane. We're going to be taking it out. I've got, like I said, I've got a series of cargo flights we'll be doing out of Vancouver up into the Canadian Rockies. Should be some interesting flying there. Looking forward to doing that over the next little while. And we'll catch you there for more. Thanks for joining us. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel. We have a Discord channel. All my flights are done there. We also fly everything on the live streams is either a VATSIM flight or a multiplayer flight. It's all about community with me, and I love flying with you guys. So if you want to come along, you can get the information on the Discords, times of flights, the aircraft, and where we're heading and routing and all that type of information. Do consider subscribing, like I said. Throw a like on it if you haven't already on your way out the door. And thank you very much. We'll be doing another live stream tomorrow, and I think we'll be flying, we'll definitely be flying this one in the Canadian Rockies tomorrow. Information will be up on the Discord. Until then, have a great day. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.